If you think photographing wild grizzly bears, moose, bald eagles, majestic mountain landscapes, marine wildlife
3 hours later
is pretty neat and you want to fill an SD card full of those subjects, you should come with us to Alaska. We're going again in July as part of our 2025 TPM annual photography retreat.
It's going to be legendary.
We went to Alaska last year in 2024 and it was epic. We have 2 spots left for this year and we'd love for one of them to be you. You can check the link out in our episode description to see the sample itinerary for this year, pricing, and to see last year's video to get a taste of what you're in for. Hope to see you there. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the Photography Mindset Podcast. I'm your co-host, Seth Macy.
I'm your co-host, Aaron Manis. But I'm going to reveal it. I'm going to reveal it for them.
So they can't see you?
No.
So they're seeing what I'm seeing?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm seeing in our recording interface right now a black screen. I've taken the liberty of putting on my Canada jersey because there's an important hockey game tonight, Canada versus USA final for all my hockey fans, all like 1% of you. I made a joke that last week when Canada-US played, it was probably like half the nation of Canada watched and maybe like 0.0000001% of Americans did.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious because it's such a big deal to us. And you're just like, what? What's that now? It's not basketball, football, or baseball?
Playing a game on ice?
You texted me today and you were like, what time is that hockey game? And I was like, yes.
Hockey.
So I got my Canada jersey on to support and I asked Aaron if he would put on his USA, if he had any USA stuff. I can't see him just like you can't see him.
And I'm ready. I'm ready to reveal.
Okay. He played the reverse Uno card.
I reverse Uno'd it. I got my toque.
Oh, wow. I was hoping for a USA Canada. You wearing USA stuff, and I was going to be wearing Canada stuff. But you doubled down on...
It was a rock, paper, scissors game of Canada, USA.
Oh, for our people who are on streaming and not on YouTube. Aaron is wearing a Canadian toque, a beautiful hoodie, zippered hoodie that says Canada across the chest. And I'm wiping tears from my eyes because I'm just so proud. And a maple leaf on the shoulder.
Yep.
Have we lost super proud Americans now?
Yeah.
Or can they?
You can love thy neighbor, right?
Yeah, we need some right now.
Yeah.
We don't get political, but we need some love from our southern sibling.
Yeah. Canada.
That is amazing. Thank you for doing that. That's so funny. Now I have to go get USA stuff, but I can't.
Do you know why I have
hockey
this?
game on tonight.
Remember why I have this?
I vaguely remember why you have this Canada gear, and I feel like it's going to nicely weave into our episode today, which is going to be very different. Why do you have this? First of all, I know why you have it.
Go on.
I know why you have this. I think you were going to do an interview with me on, was it for this show or was it for the Mantis Mood?
It was for this show.
It was for this podcast.
Yeah, the first time not the first time I was on, but...
No, but you interviewed me and you came on wearing that stuff. And I feel like I probably had a similar reaction 4 years ago. And it's probably, this Canadian attire has probably sat in a closet for 3 or 4 years.
I think it's about 3, and I knew exactly where it was. Like I didn't, but I did.
And now you have reset the clock on the rule of if you don't wear something for 6 months, you're supposed to give it away or donate it or whatever. And now it's just, you've reset the clock.
I put it in my iPhone every 6 months, wear Canada gear so I can keep it forever.
Alone in your house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, God.
What I was going to do for that show, I remember doing a bunch of promos, like Instagram stories, and I was chugging maple syrup.
Yes, it was
probably
so
in my
good.
archives.
So good because you were interviewing me on the podcast. I think I actually titled that episode The American Invasion, which is hilarious.
That's good stuff.
So, oh my God, I'm all giddy. Hopefully Canada wins a hockey game tonight. We'll see. I hope it's competitive. I hope it's friendly. I hope it's tough.
Yeah.
And wow, you look amazing.
Thank you.
What are we going to do for today's episode? We got something different.
Yeah, well, we were reminiscing. We were going back on old father time and discussing. Well, let me back up. Someone wrote in. One of our listeners wrote in.
Yes.
And asked the question. She said, maybe you guys have already done this, and we definitely have touched upon things, but maybe all in one episode would be a good thing to have.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, have you ever talked about when you guys like met, how you got started with photography, your first kind of business experience with photography? How did you get to this point? Like I have a lot of catching up to do on the show, but I'm curious how you guys got here. And we were reminiscing, and I was like, oh my God, I used to do this thing on Instagram on like Thursday nights, typically during COVID time when I was home and everyone was a little bit bored and we were just doing stuff. I would have this little show on Instagram Live when that was a thing. I feel like, yeah, it was just a weird time in life.
Oh, it's good.
It was 4 or 5 years ago. Like, yeah, obviously, almost to the point. It's 4.5 years ago. And I would have different guests on, even musical guests, talk about current events, talk about whatever's going on.
Unknown caller.
And did that go through?
Yeah, but it's fine.
Okay. I would have musical guests on. I would have photographers on. I would have friends on, and we kind of would talk about whatever was going on in the world. And Seth was one of.
I was one. I was on the Mantis Mood, the prologue to this podcast. For people who are really like loyal listeners of this, and if you know that, that's like an amazing piece of trivia. The Mantis Mood. You had a neon sign too, didn't you?
I do. I still do.
You still do. We should put it in the background, figure out a way for one of these episodes.
Yeah, it's somewhere around here, but it's like having bootleg tapes of Grateful Dead before they made an album like that.
I mean, we're not that high caliber, but
well,
actually, we are the
one day of photographer podcasts.
Maybe
we might be up there.
We could be
Grateful Dead. I don't know.
You could be. Well, I mean, your phone ringing was Justin Trudeau calling you, being like, Aaron, thank you so much for your Canadian support with what you're wearing. And for God's sakes, people, if you are, go subscribe to the YouTube to see how handsome this man looks right now in his Canuck. His Canuck toque.
The beard is growing long. I feel like it suits.
You should have come on with like ice in it.
I should have. Frosting.
Can you spell toque though?
I'm going to go I have two options. TOQUE.
Ding, 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 ding.
Is that correct?
Yes. And for you Americans, because I know it's the majority of our listeners, a toque is a winter hat.
There you
Wool
go.
hat.
Winter
toque.
Hat. Does it have to have the thing on the top or no?
The little ball? No. Actually, no, I don't know. I don't think so.
Oh, I was just curious.
Well, so yeah, I was a guest on the Mantis Mood, the prologue of this that we did on Instagram Live, and you are going to play this today. We found a way to cue it up, and I think we're going to play it because it ties in well to our origin story as like a team. I think we'll be able to reflect on where we were as individuals at the time, what's changed from then until now, our growth as podcasters, as people, as photographers, how that dynamics evolved, what we've learned along the way, milestones, low moments, struggles. So yes, that is a great recommendation, and thank you, Angela, for suggesting that.
I remember at one point you could archive. It was Instagram Live, and you can archive it, and you could have up to an hour thing. But eventually, they said like, we're going to get rid of these, and I figured out a way to archive them all on YouTube, just my personal account, and they're unlisted. They're just there.
Drats.
Like I wanted to keep them. Maybe we'll.
They should be public. They should be open archive.
Yeah, maybe I'll launch them on.
We should launch the one with you and
YouTube.
I, so people can go and watch the 15-minute video.
I will. I'll definitely do it.
Yes.
But I was able to find it, and we listened to 10 seconds of it, and we're like, oh my God, let's just play this. And kind of like Mystery Science Theater, that old movie where the robots would comment on the films. We're gonna go through it and stop.
Yes.
I think at moments where we need to stop.
And just so you know, like Aaron started playing it before we pressed record, and I was like, stop. I'm laughing too hard, and I want to hear it the first time, and it just be so organic. So I think we'll go through that. How long is the clip?
I think it's like 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay, 10 to 15 minutes. We're not going to play all the way through. I think we'll stop at hilarious moments. Or like, ooh, that's interesting. We'll do that. And then we can always go back in time and mention some of the other things that I started. Personal origin stories, etc.
All right.
Should we start? Mantis Mood?
Everyone enjoy the show.
All right. I have not heard this.
All right. Who wanted to come on here? Let's see. Seth does. Yes. Yes, Canada.
Did you really say yes, Canada?
Hey, man.
Hey,
You're looking good.
you know what? I changed the lighting.
That's it.
Let's stop right there. Seth is always complimenting me on my youthful appearance, looking good, like the outfit. Just a cheerleader in my corner, and I
know
want
what?
to say from the beginning.
You know what? Before you press play, this is, I feel like, a very important soft skill.
Lie
I
to
make
people?
it. No. Everything I say is true. I make a habit, especially like, let's say I'm in a meeting with somebody who I've never met before, and there's a potential opportunity. Maybe there's not even an opportunity. Just usually scenarios where we're complete strangers. I always make an effort to have the very first thing I say be an icebreaker. Get the other person feeling good, laughing, loosened up. I feel like it's such a good way to demonstrate that you're easygoing. Maybe you have some wit. I'm not saying you have to do this. I just play to your own strengths, right? In an authentic way, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But just even, I'm trying to refrain from tooting my own horn, but the point I'm trying to make is it's a nice way to open the door and showcase that you're inviting the other person to relax a bit, or you're demonstrating that you're just kind of down to earth. So starting a conversation with like, wow, man, you look good. Like, what is your first thought about me if you don't know me?
Yeah, that's nice.
So I think that's a useful piece of advice if you're going into a Zoom meeting with a potential client or something. Just be ridiculous. Don't be rude, but just like, even here's an example. Sometimes in a call with in a partnership deal or something, somebody will have a print or something behind them. Like, oh, wow, that's cool. Like, nice print. That's a pretty sweet office. And you get the other person talking about their artwork or their office. It's a good way to get dialogue flowing and ease in and warm up to a conversation, just like how you warm up at the gym before running, as opposed to just getting right into things.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we continue?
Yes, we shall.
It must be the light.
Well, two things. I got the iPhone 11,
Wow.
Okay.
which has a much better camera and does a much better job with light. So I had my softbox like blaring with my iPhone 10. But then when I switched, it was blown out. So now I just got the natural lights going, and it gives me a nice glow.
It looks great.
You're all about
Thank
the glow.
You want to know what I just bought today?
What?
Ooh.
My 150 to 600 millimeter Sigma.
Wow.
Oh no, not the
That's already
Sigma.
Oh, yeah.
Tamron, don't stop sponsoring the show.
Yeah. Duh. Erase. We'll just go.
No. You know what?
600 Tamron. We'll just plug it in.
No. Yeah, it's just the voiceover.
Yeah.
I just got my Tamron to 150.
Tamron.
No. People have asked me, like, because I used to shoot with the Sigma before the Tamron deal. It's a good lens. Like, I'm not hating on that. It's a good lens. It works well. So does the Tamron.
Absolutely.
You know? So I'll never say to somebody like, oh, Sigma sucks. I'm not about that.
Oh.
But that's funny.
And here I had it right behind me and I pointed to it. I was like, this baby.
That's
The
so
team.
funny.
Join the
Yeah.
team.
Join
So
the team.
Adam and Mike, who shoot Tamron,
Yeah. Outnumbered at this point.
super questionable.
Yeah.
This keeps
Let's go
getting
through your
better.
finals in the background real quick.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. Which one do you want to start with?
That's funny.
Top left.
Oh, Vance Joy.
Cool.
Do you know Vance Joy? Oh,
Yes.
look who's right beside him.
My
John
boy.
Mayer.
That was Haley and I went to a John Mayer concert and watched him shred for 3 hours, and then I got that as a birthday gift.
Yeah. Tell me it wasn't amazing. It was good, right?
Okay, John Mayer concerts go like this. You're blown away the entire time, but by hour 2, you're in your seat like, I get it, you're sick.
Yeah.
And I got a train to catch. I will see you next time.
I hear
It's
that.
true.
I hear that. I mean, I think there's a lot of bands like that just go nuts. And if you're far away, by any means, you kind of get checked out.
Yeah,
You know?
big time.
I saw Pearl Jam at Fenway, and it was kind
Look at that. Me assuming you were far away and didn't have good seats.
Yeah, what am I poor? I'm in the
Yeah,
bowl
rude.
seat. How do you know I didn't have
Rude.
floor seats?
Rude.
Rude.
of saying, like it was a dream to see them. But again, after 3.5 hours, and I'm 600 meters away,
Yeah.
it's like, all right,
Good distance.
I'm all set. So
Like, dude, all-time favorite, Nirvana.
Oh.
I've had this Kurt poster,
that's sick, dude.
like, for as long as I can remember. I got a whole row in order devoted to Nirvana albums. So Bleach, then we got Nevermind, In Utero, and Unplugged in New York, and then he died. But,
So,
man,
yeah,
Can we pause?
I don't know if you're a Nirvana fan, but
I am.
Why do I sound like Chadley Chadwick?
We both sound like bros, young bros.
Okay, but and for the record, people, this is Aaron and my first real face-to-face conversation.
We DM'd maybe a little, but that's not really we're not going crazy on DMs ever. That's not our.
So we're bonding over music.
Yeah.
All right, interesting.
It's amazing we sound like 10 years younger. I think
Yeah.
we sound like a couple of maybe we're peacocking a little bit. Maybe there's a little nerve.
Maybe interesting.
At least 2 of those vinyls. So I've got an original pressing of Nevermind and the unplugged one.
Way to one up me.
it's super sick.
Yeah.
And then I got a row of
Yep.
Green Day.
Sick.
So that was my first CD ever. This is vinyl, but my mom bought me a Green Day album.
True.
And then the year I was born, 1994, Green Day Dookie.
94. Jesus. Wait, the album next to that. Let me see that. Is that
Which one? Rage Against the Machine.
Oh, that's a good album.
So that's a real photo. You know that, right?
Yeah, and that vinyl is sick.
Monk in Tibet, I think,
Mm-hmm.
who lit himself on fire
Wow.
It's a good
as
album
like
cover.
a protest in 1968. And I actually want to know which photographer took that, because that is the coolest shot ever.
Yeah, that's insane.
Like,
That-
what?
Yeah,
My
that
Wikipedia
album
page?
essentially was a live album. They recorded like four track straight through, basically no overdubbing, no anything, just insane.
Yeah.
Pause for a sec.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now here's the next question.
You know what I noticed in our first interaction? This is interesting, just like human behavior. Like, we're both very much showing how much we know. Like, why did I give you the date of the album?
Not even the album. Oh yeah, you did the album before, but the date of the picture from the
Oh,
album.
the picture. That's what I mean.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
hilarious.
I'm like, do you know how it was recorded?
On a 4-track. Okay, so a lot about music. All right, interesting.
Yeah, I wonder where we're gonna go from here.
Uh-huh.
Are you playing these vinyls on a turntable, or is it like a collective sort of thing?
So some of them still have the packaging on them.
Mm-hmm.
I have a turntable. I didn't buy a Crossley because I friggin' hate those things, and they just wreck your vinyls. So if you have one, sorry.
No,
I bought a really nice Audio Technica one,
Ooh,
nice.
and so what I'll do is every now and then, if I'm feeling it, it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like a cigar, right? When you're just like feeling one, you'll go and you'll unpackage it.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Health
So I'd
Nut.
say half the wall
Mr. Health out here.
We froze. I'm gonna get back to it in a second, but I gotta say also, like, we're gonna see this on the YouTube channel, but your beard is like,
is it big?
It's like just etch-a-sketched perfectly, and you've got cabbage coming out of the hat. You got a toque on, and the cabbage is coming out fast and furious.
Yeah, I'm Snow Chad.
Yeah.
Wow.
Still in the packaging. It's just like whatever you're feeling, man.
Yeah, it's really cool.
But I want to jam with you.
Yeah, I think that's happening at some point.
It's not, because I'm not a good guitar player.
Like, I'm just kind of chilling in this little...
What he meant by jam with me was start a podcast in a couple of years.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Wow.
home studio I got going on.
Did have one of those.
Is that where the podcast happens?
Yeah, so I just...
So you already started, John.
Welcome
to the photographer mindset. Blah, 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 blah.
Can I make fun of you for 1 second?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Before I do that, I will say it really was impressive. I'm not kidding.
Well, before you do make fun of me, for everybody listening, Aaron is coming on in 2 weeks. So take what he says with a grain of salt if he's making fun of me. Okay, go. Make fun of me.
All right.
Actually, no, keep telling me how good it was first.
I will. The podcast part, the questioning, the flow, what I kept saying was, how much is this edited? Like, is there a lot? Is he cutting this so it's so smooth? And I don't think you were much. I think it just really was flowing, like the conversation. Great questions, great like jump off points. Way to bring like people back, like Brett, who can just talk forever. Like bring him back.
Yeah, you got to reel Brett in.
You got to reel him in. But just really nice job. The funny part that I will say.
All right.
And you can fix this, is at the very end, the beginning and end, you have your canned sort of like, hey, welcome to the podcast.
The ending was so loud.
It was loud, but you went, hey guys.
That's it? That's all you're going to make fun of me for?
Yeah, your hey guys was so different than your tone the whole time. Your voice was normal, but then you could tell that was a separate recorded thing. So you probably like pressure, like stress, like, okay, I got to record this and sound good. And you were like, hey guys. And it was so high that I went, oh my God, that's pre-recorded. And it just made me laugh. But
yeah, I have helium balloons on standby for my outros.
Nonetheless, I had to really stretch to make fun of you because it really was good.
I thought you were going to give it to me a lot worse. But the one tomorrow is with Adam Danny.
Awesome.
Flash from the
Brett
past.
might get mad. Thank God he's not watching. Adam's is my favorite so far.
It was good?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Adam and I had never talked until...
So I guess this is... Adam Danny was the third episode ever, and we're on like 250 something. So I guess I had just started this. You're hearing like the show had just started a couple weeks prior to the conversation you're hearing right now, which I didn't realize. I didn't realize they were almost in sync.
Yeah.
And I was referring to you, I guess you're coming on next week.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's so funny. I was crying laughing.
And people do have certain talents. I noticed then that I feel like Seth is a great interviewer, great questions, able to think on the fly and keep the conversation going. And that's only improved, but definitely from the start, I remember listening and being like, this dude's doing a really good job.
I like how you were comfortable enough, and it's been under 10 minutes to make fun of me. Seriously, I think that I'm almost taking that as a compliment that you felt like you had permission to do so. I mean, obviously, most of that is your personality. I'm not taking responsibility for your wit and your funniness. No, but I'm glad that you like felt you could do that. You know.
Yeah, if you feel like you can't, that's usually probably not a great sign for me in like a friendship or relationship or connection. And it's a great way to test someone.
Right.
Like, how's Seth going to take this? Is he confident enough to laugh it off, or
Get defensive. Yeah,
Jesus,
true.
What about it? And then I'll be like, I'm not doing a podcast with that kid.
Like until we recorded. Really good episode.
Cool. Can't wait.
I can't wait for you to come on. Do you want me to hop off? Somebody else can hop on, or I don't want to steal your show. I just
Sure.
wanted to see your gorgeous face.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah, and that wood thing is sick behind your shelf.
Oh, where'd it go?
Yeah.
Oh, because we're both on. That's why.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was. I had a vision, and it was way more expensive barnwood than I thought it would be, but I went with it, and I couldn't not finish it. So I even did. Can you see way over there next to the TV? Like way in the corner. There's the slabs.
Just showing him around
Nice.
my house now.
Yeah. So
It's cool. It's Connecticut barnwood. That's it.
yeah, there's a place, Connecticut Lumber, down on the shoreline that has awesome stuff. That's an old
Everyone
beam
cares.
on the fireplace too. From it's still got like the metal pieces in it from like a yoke or something crazy.
That's cool.
Yeah. Well,
Is my
thanks for
internet
stopping
working
on.
fine? Because like
Yeah.
I told you how internet works in Canada, right?
Yeah. Remind everyone though.
So in a remote part of Canada in the wilderness, there's just two beavers and they just stand side by side and they hold the nation's Ethernet cable together. Yeah, just like that. And that's what provides the entire nation's internet.
Like that scene in Back to the Future, right?
Yes. Yeah. So you guys are always making fun of me for being Canadian, but
No, it's with love. I think it's jealousy mostly.
give me an about.
See,
About.
There it
Yeah.
is. All right. I gotta get off.
All right, man. Take care.
Yeah.
So that wasn't the full Mantis mood with me.
no, I just realized that you just hopped on, right?
That's still great though. Do we have the Mantis mood?
Yeah, it's
Can
got
we
to
make a timestamp?
Yeah, it's got to be. Hold on 1 second. Keep talking. Talk.
Okay. That was hilarious. I don't think I knew any other descriptive word other than sick, which is hilarious. That's so funny because we went from talking about how much we knew politely to over complimenting one another to almost like out funnying one another, trying to.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't have like the beginnings because I think that archive thing was not a thing when I first started.
Oh, so you don't have the full Mantis mood?
No, that was a full Mantis mood, but that wasn't the one where I had you on as like a guest. You just hopped on that one. So
We'll have to find the full one.
Yeah, somehow. I don't know how, but I can look into it. But that is one of our first times talking for sure. Maybe not the first time, if we're being truly accurate, but nonetheless, hilarious.
I hope people enjoyed that.
I did.
Where
I
were
did.
you at? Where was your photography at that stage in your life?
I was probably ahead of myself.
What does that mean?
In
What does that mean?
confidence versus skill.
Oh, Mr. Dunning-Kruger has entered the chat.
Maybe. Well, I think social media can be a smokescreen or an illusion sometimes. And I just started that game. I just started the game of social media, and I was getting recognition for things that I hadn't before and felt like, oh, I found this thing that I'm decent at, and people seem to like it. So I think I thought I was bigger than I was. I can tell myself right there when you were like, you look good. And I was like, the lighting. And I saw myself, and I remember this, trying to find the word for like blown out or overexposed.
That's
like
funny.
I remember trying to be technical in that moment and explaining the lighting that I was having, but being a little nervous about like, am I saying the right terms? I could tell that I was like hesitant just slightly. So that was like my skill level. But around that time, like Brooke had a thing with what's her camera company?
It's OM Systems now, but it was Olympus at the time.
Olympus.
Brooke Littlebear, you're referring to?
Brooke Littlebear had a round table with Olympus that was broadcast, and they asked like who she's looking up to, and she's like, right now, Mantis. She didn't even know my name really, but she's like, Mantis and his foxes are incredible. I just had those fox moments. Like so there was a lot happening where I felt, I think, bigger than I was. That's kind of where I was, where I was like, maybe not bigger than I was, but like really enjoying it and soaking it in and feeling like, oh my God, I have this talent that everyone's noticing. Like it was kind of fun because it came out of nowhere.
It's interesting how you feel like you have to fill those shoes. Almost like someone I look up to is mentioning my name on a round table with a major camera company. I've just started out. I need to know how to explain what blown out highlights are. It's incredible how we can feel the obligation to be an expert when we know deep down we're not. And that is something I feel like we naturally will all struggle with. It's impossible to know everything about anything, right? And I feel like at times I went the opposite direction early in my photography career. I mentioned, I made the joke Dunning-Kruger has entered the chat. Maybe that's more applicable for me. I feel like when I was first starting out photography, even with this podcast, I was able to say things with such conviction when maybe I had no business having that level of confidence behind what I was saying. And it's only as you progress on your journey, your photography journey, your podcast journey, your running journey, whatever, you start to open your eyes to how vast what you don't know is, how much there is that you don't know, versus in the beginning, you don't know what you don't know. Right? You're so confident in the small leaps and bounds that you've made that you naturally feel like you've got this thing figured out. And I think Mark Manson talks about this a lot. You can't see your blind spots. That's why they're called blind spots. And often blind spots are driven over or completely, the fact that they exist is completely forgotten by sharing thoughts and opinion with such conviction. And what's interesting about that is that I feel like we as people, we go looking for a tutorial or a video or some kind of piece of content that we think will be valuable. And we want the person, people listening, want me right now to tell them what to do with conviction. And I feel like I struggle more to do that, particularly with this show and in my photography as both of those journeys have progressed, because I'm so much more aware of what I don't know. It makes it so much more difficult to lay down a thesis or an argument so concretely in such a black and white way with such conviction. But at the same time, it's interesting because often that is what people respond to. People want to tell me the answer, right?
Right.
So that's kind of how I feel like have progressed as a creator and as just like as a person in the last little while is I'm more doubtful than ever about stuff.
Yeah.
And that's been a bit of a struggle for me. It almost feels like going backwards. Why am I at times feeling less confident about things? Maybe not confident, but less knowing. I feel like I know way less about this, or I don't feel like I can just slap down a statement with raw conviction. And it's been a bit of a struggle for me to understand, hey, like that's natural because your knowledge, your experience has expanded. And that's where I'm at currently as I'm saying this.
Yeah. And I feel like as you improve in any skill, you start to seek out better and better people, better and better peers, better and better examples of work. If we're talking music, like better musicians, more interesting songs, more complicated. lyrically fine, whatever, but I'm listening to this guy's piano and hands and the rhythm that he's playing while singing, and it's like, damn, that's hard. I can't hold a candle to that. Where when you're starting off and like, oh, this just sounds good, cool. It doesn't have to necessarily be complicated. Music doesn't necessarily have to be complicated to be good. Some of the best stuff, I think, is pretty simple, straightforward stuff. Mm-hmm. But as you get better and I put together this video I'm really proud of, and then you see or seek out or look at someone else's video or watch a documentary on Apple TV or whatever it may be, and you're like, damn.
Which is good.
It is good. It is good, but you're able to look at things through a different lens.
Yes.
As you get better, and then it reveals like, oh, I thought I was all that, but I got a long way to go. Yeah. And that's okay. And I'm happy where I am. But if we're really talking, I don't want to have the figment of my imagination that like I'm the best photographer on the East Coast because whatever. Whatever metric you have, if you really open your eyes and look around, you're like, I could go on Instagram right now and find 100 people that are doing it more consistently, growing in their craft, just banger photos, like really good photos that took, and now that must have taken hours of stalking that bird or waiting in the bush or waiting in the cold. That guy's got it. That girl's got it. I don't have that right now,
Yeah. I think there's this, when you first start out, there's this bliss in ignorance as you make that first little bump where you start to noticeably improve and people say, oh, that's amazing. That's really good. And you start to get really emotionally charged in a positive way with the bulk of your work that makes up the beginning of your portfolio because you think it's incredible and it's amazing at the time. And it's really not. Like I hate to bring it to you. If you're a beginner listening, the work you're making right now is not likely incredible. It's just not. Yeah. And then what happens is I think you dive a little bit deeper, and then what happens is you notice all the things you just mentioned, some of the skill level that's out there beyond your tight-knit community, friends and family, what have you. And it's a big come down to go from thinking that you're incredible as a beginner and amazing to I am light years away from that quality. And I feel like I learned this very on, and it helped me from deflating mentally and emotionally, was I'm as good as I can be right now. I'm as amazing as is possible at my current stage. And I think that's what's important right up until the end, to your last breath. Like, are you as good as you can be separate from everyone else?
Yeah. We talked about this, I think it was last week, about working so hard, and what is working so hard, and what are the trade-offs? And there's only so many hours in the day, and there's a lot of life. And I truly believe about, figuring out and feeling and experiencing a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. I think that's fun. I think it would be somewhat sad to be so focused on one thing in life that you miss out on all the rest. And some of the superstars that we compare ourselves to are like that in all fields of athletics, sports, art, music, career, whatever it may be. Some people get super focused on a small amount of things, and that's where it goes. And that's absolutely fine. But I think if you want to have a family, if you want to have children, if you do have children, if you have a career, if you have hobbies, if you have a husky that needs 3 miles of walking a day, like if you have these things, it's hard to keep up with someone that's laser focused on the thing that you like. It just is. It's just, they're going to start to lap you. And that's okay. And I think comparing yourselves to other people, you don't know the whole story.
Yeah, it's so true. And I like to think this isn't my original idea, and I can't recall where I've heard it from, but that ultimately success is an auction.
Mm-hmm.
In the sense that people who are achieving the highest levels of performance and success have paid the most in their time and in their sacrifice.
Yeah.
It's no different.
Yep.
I'm curious to know, just going back to the episode idea.
Yeah, I was gonna actually rein us back, but again, you're a pro and you did it before me.
Thank you, sir. What was the first dollar you made from photography?
I knew that was.
I don't even know the answer to this question. Still finding things out about you.
For me or for you?
For you.
Okay, so I was actually thinking about this answer during our last conversation. So the answer is there's a lot of free work at first. My first reach out was to, and it wasn't through me, I was brought along to Warner's Camp. And at Warner's Camp, I love Warner's Camp. I give them credit for helping me and some of my friends get going with the whole cabin thing, the whole Airbnb shooting thing. They have a big following. We were able to do some fun stuff at their place with some drone work and photography work. And they started posting some of my photos. They posted our group video that we did. It was awesome. That was a really cool experience to be able to stay somewhere for free, have a guy's weekend. Fortunately, because of COVID, you could not come.
Yeah.
But is the first time it dawned on me, like, oh, this is cool. This is a possibility. That was in the winter. I believe it was the summer after we went back to the Adirondacks. You still could not come. That's when Brett had that bug, I think, lay 7,000 eggs in his skull. And he woke up and he was like, my head is itchy. And he had this like volcano of juice coming out of his head.
Lovely.
The cabin was this was not a Warner's Camp cabin. I want to make that clear. This was like a cheap sort of real cabin that was filled with bugs, moths and beetles. And
you say some stuff like that funny. You say moths funny now, and you also say aunt instead of aunt. It's funny. My aunt. Anyways, continue.
I say Colorado, weird too. Anyways, Paca. Remember Paca?
I do remember Paca.
Paca and I had a correspondence, and we were going to the Adirondacks, and I got they handed out, or they gave me a trade of a bunch of socks to photograph, which is not easy, especially for someone new in the game.
Aaron started out in the foot industry.
I did.
He was a foot photographer. Let your imagination go wild, folks.
But I was really proud of those images that we got again. And that kind of started the whole thing. But to answer your question, from that, Nooch and I really started working together, or wanting to pursue this hard. And we reached out to Solo Stove, and the first contracts that we had, I think, could have been an Airbnb cabin here and there, but the first real thing that we did was Solo Stove. And they hit us up for like 3 or 4 things in a row, pretty big contracts. And talk about like riding the wave in the beginning. This is 2021 and getting 5-figure contracts to do Solo Stove stuff, which was like incredible to me.
Yeah, it's one of your first gigs.
Yes. And a lot went into it. It was worth it. I think we priced it right, but it was, they were hard work. We had to bring people. We had to set things up. We had to rent out places. We had to scout places. Mike and I drove to the Adirondacks one weekend just to look at stuff, to make a flight path before the actual weekend was going to happen. Like, we did a lot of work to make these things happen, but it was, we were thrown into the fire and figured it out.
That's your first dollar. I did sound design on that project.
Yeah. Yeah. The flying over the water one, right? Where I'm paddleboarding.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's so true.
Yeah. I didn't know that I worked on your first project.
Yeah. I think that was the first paid one. Like I said, it's possible there was an Airbnb, but I don't feel like I feel like I was more in the mindset of like, I'll just trade for this to have a free place.
Yeah.
At that point.
In a way that getting thrown into the deep end, being fairly priced.
Yeah.
5 figures for a large project.
Yeah. No, just 5 figures, not like $90,000.
Yeah. I feel like and you had expenses. I get it. I feel like you skipped a large bulk of chances to mess up or learn on a smaller scale. That's a big jump to go from this is new to me to I'm working with contracts. I'm working with a major brand. I mean, it helps you had Mike on your team, who is like the most type A person of all time.
Yeah, but still new to him.
Yeah.
You know?
Why do you guys, this is an important question, and beginners are begging me to ask this. How are you able to negotiate that without getting too nuanced and taking up the rest of the episode with it? Because I know we could. There's a lot of probably beginners listening saying, wow, it is possible. Hallelujah. Thank you, Aaron, for instilling hope.
Yeah. I can answer that. I want to throw in a little aside first. One of my first gigs, I want to correct this. It also was with Mike. I invited him to it, but I had negotiated a deal with a cabin system in New Hampshire. So it wasn't one cabin. It was like a hotel, but a bunch of cabins. I don't know how to describe that except for that. And it was for very cheap. It gave us the place to stay, and I had to take a couple of photos, but that was my first paid actual thing. From that, we kind of had the confidence to shop around. Knowing someone or getting, like, not knowing someone, but we didn't know the person from Solo Stove, but getting someone on the phone and having a conversation and having an idea. I've said it 1,000 times. If you have an idea or a narrative for a project, that is what you have to present. It never works. It has never worked for me just generally saying, hey, I'm a photographer. If you ever need pictures, let me know. If you ever need video, let me know. Or I could do video for you. The only time it's worked is when you create a connection. And I talked about this connection where I made this Father's Day son Solo Stove photo that they loved. It was mini me. It was a mini stove, a big stove. My son was little. We're wearing the same outfit. He has a little hatchet in his hand with a little twig. I have a big axe with a big log that I'm chopping, and we're both tending to our fires on Solo Stove.
Incredible idea.
Yeah, and thank you. But I agree. Like, I was jazzed about this idea. It's hard. I feel like it's very hard to tell a narrative in a photo sometimes. It's very hard to tell an entire story. And I was like, this one does it.
That's how you know you have a good photo, if you're able to do that in a way.
Right. So I was proud of this. I shared this. That got me the contact to talk to people. And from there, they're like, what else do you think you can do with, like, what other narratives can you make?
Because you have proof of concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just did proof of concept. I am capable of being creative, coming up with an excellent idea, executing on it, and sharing it, and speaking with you. You've just proven your capabilities with one idea.
Yeah. And having teammates definitely help. So bringing people in, whether it's you for sound design, where like, oh, you're capable of that, that's your thing. We still couldn't get together because of COVID. So Mike was a very eager person. He still is. Mike
I was gonna
was
say
very
was.
eager to let's get this going. So in having those, all right, I got the contact. Now let's bring you into a team meeting. Mike's listening, we're hearing, they want some ideas to give us a general sort of feel of what they're looking for. We go away, we meet for hours and figure out this would be sick if we went to the Adirondacks and flew through all their products, right? So how did we price that? How did we negotiate a deal? At that point, we were just kind of doing rough math on how freaking hard this would be and how long this would take. And sort of saying like, what would make this worth our time, but also what a good experience to do this and work with a good brand. So we don't want to lose the fish on the lure here. We want to make a suggestion that we feel like is fair but competitive. And I feel like we asked what their budget range was, and we took the sort of Adam Capola sense of like, we could do this in a lot of different ways, but what do you have to do? Are we doing this in the backwoods of our house, or are we going to a really cool place like the Adirondacks? We got to sort of figure this out. Mm-hmm. And I think they probably said like, we can't go above 10. And I was like, well, we could do this for 10. And sort of went back and forth and presented this really cool concept where then it worked out. And was it worth it after Mike did not fly drones at that point. That urged him to fly a drone. We had to hire a drone pilot. We had to hire actors. We paid for the cabin. We had to split it a bunch of different ways for people doing photography. Like it.
Yeah, I think I got paid from that quite
you
well
did.
too.
Yep. We wanted to pay everyone that helped. And it was definitely worth it. But at the end of the day, like it was a lot of work and a lot of outsourcing for sure.
Concisely,
it was a great experience.
What was your biggest lesson in the concise sense?
Biggest lesson was just, I think, again, get your foot in the door with some sort of narrative or idea. Look around the house and be like, I love that product. Oh, that's a funny thing. Don't just sit on that, as Ian says. Don't let that go in the idea graveyard. Like, try to share that narrative. You had a great narrative with my microphone stuff.
I did.
Like, it was so obvious. And I'm doing these Valentine shoots. They're like, we want pairs of the microphones because we're doing a sale on both of them. So that was in my mind. Like, I need the pairs. I need 2 microphones. I tell him about it, like, hey, I have to do some microphone shoots for Valentine's Day. Split second, he goes, yo, you just got a video in like 120 frames per second, like putting in the XLR cable with like some sexy music.
That's it.
And I was like, oh my God.
Subtle, right?
Now, risky. And I probably took it way too far with the rose-petaled bathtub and the music and the video direction.
Yeah, it became NSFW pretty quick.
Yeah, became inappropriate. However, the team did not use it, but the team loved it, and they joked. And the guy was like, everyone was dying. Like, this is killer.
Good.
And that, like, showing that creative, the fact that I took the time to do it, the fact that I knew, because I presented it as like, hey, you probably can't use this. It's a bit risky. I have a shorter version if you wanted to take that chance, but I think it's funny and I think you guys would enjoy it.
Yeah.
Like, I think it shows a lot.
It shows you're willing to take risks and you're willing to push the edge and you're willing to find the limit in a way that is low cost to them.
Yeah. And to even do work when I didn't hedge my bets and be like, they're not going to use it. I'm not going to do it.
Right.
Right. I tried. I tried, I set it up, I did all the work. So they see like, this guy puts in effort.
Yeah,
Nothing
and this
else.
this has been a constant theme the last few episodes. This is another opportunity to be like, this wasn't wasted time because the result wasn't there, because they didn't use it. It'd be so easy to say waste of time. They didn't use it.
Yeah.
Not a waste of time. You filmed a creative idea. You showed that you're willing to go into risque territory.
Yeah.
That is valuable. And this is a prime example, if people needed more from this podcast, of placing the value in the doing and the execution and not overvaluing the result.
Right.
The value is not always the result, even if it's what's desired.
Yeah. And I'm big now on satisfaction guaranteed.
Meaning what?
Meaning, listen, if we're talking big contracts and within reason, but if you're talking contracts and you're talking, you have a job to do. If it misses the mark and they're not going to use it, to me, I'm like, then I missed the mark.
Right.
I really am starting to believe that. I'm getting less. Hey, is there something I can change? Because now that sucks. I have to work twice as much, but I'll change it to make it work so that you're happy and then that I get paid. But for example, that video,
The solar stove?
The Valentine's video that they're like, we can't use that, man. I was like, oh, I understand.
But you didn't put all your eggs in that basket though. You had another alternative.
Yeah, I had a whole bunch of
a PG version.
Yeah, but yeah, and I had a whole bunch of photos which they really wanted. That's what they wanted. They didn't even ask for video.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
It would have been great. I think it would have gotten a lot of traction.
I would have blown up.
Nonetheless, on the invoice, I want them to know that while I'm getting paid kind of hourly for a lot of this work with them, that's what we've set up because it's kind of hard to understand how much. That's a whole different story, but just trust me on it. Getting paid hourly. When it came down to the video, I didn't charge for that work. It took, I don't know, a couple hours. I just said Valentine's video free or included.
Free. Yeah.
Just to remind them that I did it, but also like, hey, I'm not charging you for that because you didn't do it. Again, a little thing, but it builds trust. It builds like, oh, this guy's got our back too.
Mm-hmm.
He's fair. We want to keep working with him. He'll try stuff. If we don't like it, he's not going to charge us for it, which after a while could get, if we're missing the mark or we're not on the same page, we might have to have a conversation. But if it's me taking a chance, that was on me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so funny you say that because I just had an instance like this too. I handed in some, funny enough, so a client of mine, I talked with them and we came to the conclusion that doing podcast styled content would be beneficial, would make sense as part of their socials marketing plan. You'll probably see, I'll probably reshare them on my Instagram. So I utilized my skill as a podcaster, set up a faux or mock podcast, asked questions so that we could get sound bites that we could post for socials to hit their target demographic. And so I'm handing in these videos, right? And I find myself making all these suggestions in the email, which is fine. This is my opinion on how to best roll these things out. But I quickly cued in to a certain principle, and then I wrote this after writing all my assumptions. I said, however, my priority is that you are happy. My priority is that you are satisfied with the assets.
Yeah.
Because I had also made suggestions about using different formatting and what would work best. At the end of the day, you got to realize it doesn't matter if who you're handing things into doesn't agree or isn't happy with your suggestions, even though you may be right.
Yeah. They're paying for it. They need to use
paying
it.
for it.
They want some ROI, and if they don't trust that it's going to give it, or it's missing a mark, they're going to have to eat it. So it's I'm big on the satisfaction guaranteed part right now.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I'll tell you what, up front, it's a great sales pitch. Hey, I know my prices are high, but I have a satisfaction guaranteed. So if you don't like these and we cannot figure it out, that sucks. You can't use them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to let you use them, but it gives someone the confidence to be like, okay. I think one of the scariest things, especially for new businesses, is to say $5,000 for like photos. What if you screw me? Like, what if you hand
And
in
you're thinking the same
crap?
thing, right?
Yeah.
It's a breath holding contest often until you build rapport, until you build chemistry, until you build trust. And there's hard skills like handing in good assets on time, and there's soft skills.
Mhm.
Being
And
funny,
what a
being
nice way to
approachable, being responsive.
build some trust by putting in a contract and having them sign it, that they need to be satisfied. They need to want to use the photos.
Yeah, for sure. Bouncing around in my notes here, just pertaining to the listener suggestion. I have a question for you. You don't need to gush.
I want to hear your first dollar though.
Oh, my first dollar.
Yeah. And while you're talking about it, I'm just going to change my battery.
Okay.
And I'm going to do it seamlessly on YouTube. It's going to be amazing.
Do we need to do anything?
Nope. Just keep going.
My first dollar with photography was shooting bands.
Wow.
Was concert photography, was shooting college bands. And when you're in college, you're broke enough as it is, right? At bars, like dingy. I have a really big portfolio of concert photography. I don't know if anybody knows this. I was in it. I loved the run and gun approach. I loved running around, being on the top deck, getting behind the drummer, doing all that stuff that Mike Nucciarino's doing right now. I love that stuff. Not with bands the size of Goose, but some bands that were pretty big locally. And unfortunately, when you're a small band, I don't know if this has changed, but there's not a lot of money. You get a cut of how many tickets you sell.
Yeah.
Right. So even charging $60, which was what I was charging $60 for 3 hours of shooting, and that didn't include my editing. Should I say that again for everybody? $60 for 3 hours of shooting. My point being, you have no idea what you're doing when you're very, very new. So give yourself some slack. You're going to mess up and you're going to kick yourself. It's going to happen. Still does. And, that's all I could really feel good about charging, because I knew that I was worth more, but at the same time, I was building experience. I knew all these bands. I was very into music. I was at school for audio engineering, which I also thought I wanted to head down a music career at that point. Realized I was not very skilled at it. Was focusing more on my photography instead, and ended up shooting all these bands instead. But I realized that it wouldn't be fair to take the $100 of the $100 the band made that night. So I was charging very little, and then I had to drive to venues and stuff like that. And looking back, that's hilarious to me. I mean, I'm glad I was able to help, but that's what I was doing. My Instagram name, I had an Instagram account just for concert photography. Did you know this?
Just keep talking, man.
I'm looking at my notes, and I thought that you fell off and out of your chair like you seized or something.
No, I'm good.
I didn't know if you could hear me, if I was talking to a wall, or if you'd frozen.
That was my seamless battery change. That
It was
did
not
go
seamless.
seamless.
Did you hear anything I said?
Yeah, all of it.
Oh, okay. So that was my first dollar with photography. Doing concerts.
Yeah, I've done it a few times for like friends or like you said, like smaller real bands though, like real stages. I did it for a big Pink Floyd cover band. It's fun. It's kind of fun.
It is fun.
Yeah, you can get pretty artistic, I feel like, with the edits, and it's a good vibe.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do it all the time, but I do like it.
It is fun. I think another interesting question from the listener suggestion was, how did it was talking about you being part-time, me being full-time. I am not full-time right now. I'm just not. Things are slow for me. And I've really tried to adopt the idea that I've presented a few times where I'm trying to like kill my identity as a photographer. I don't want to be just a photographer, you know? I want to be a photographer. I want to be videographer. I want to be creative director. I want to be sound design guy. I want to be, I picked up part-time work training AI models on how to properly respond. Like I like doing creative stuff. And so I have a pretty good basket of income, but by no means am I continuing to be a full-time photographer because the pressure is just not fun and I want to do other things too.
Yeah, I love that. And again, it gives you the ability to just explore life versus getting stuck in one alley where you're going and that's it.
And when that when that identity is stripped from you, I think you can lose who you are. Like if I lost my ability to not be able to take photographs anymore, who am I? If my identity is wrapped up in I'm a photographer.
Yeah.
As opposed to I'm me, I'm creative, I work hard. It's better, I feel like, to have those descriptive words rather than a profession. Because then you can slip and slide into tons of different areas and industries.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I could not agree more.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What else we got? Anything you want to touch on? I mean, I could keep going, but especially since you just changed your battery.
I know, it's fresh. This could be one of those 3-hour ones.
Well, I mean, I still have a list of stuff.
Go.
I guess I would be curious to know what's changed from the beginning to now, since we're kind of doing that theme of if what's motivated you has changed over time to continue to improve, to continue to create content, to continue to record podcasts and talk to me every week, etc. Has what's motivated you changed from 4 years ago till now?
Yes. So back to the beginning of this episode, or maybe the middle, where when I started out, I got this attention as like a wildlife guy. And I got some wildlife gifts for living in the East Coast. I got some gifts right off the bat. I had a freaking black bear in a tree coming out of hibernation above the road. Like that is a gift where I can be in my 4Runner and be 20 feet from a bear in a tree, have a wide angle lens shot, have a 200, 2.8 shot, have a close up with at the time, the Sigma.
Did you get video?
I got some video.
I was going to say, the times are different because now you would have been filming. This is real. This is insane. I'll take pictures after.
I took 700 photos, literally, of like, well, this is the same shot. I was just so excited about the moment.
Yes.
The fox den that like these beautiful foxes are playing, and it's a lush green spring day. The leaves, like that was a beautiful, beautiful scene. That one I worked for, but it wasn't super hard. Like I figured it out. Like someone told me where a den was. It just took some figuring out, and then I had to wait for a bit. And it was an incredible scene. Going out west, like a lot of those things kind of just fell in my lap. And then I realized what wildlife truly is. And it was like incredibly hard. I had such a dry spell. of like, I'm not seeing anything. I'm like chasing things on a paddleboard, like trying to get any sort of photo of any cool bird that I possibly can. Like nothing's happening. And I realized like, this is, at first it was like winning the lotto. Now it's this time effort put into it on the East Coast, the time put into it to maybe get a photo. It's not vibing with my life as a dad with a full-time career, taking care of a house, liking to do music gigs every once in a while. Like it was like, this is a sacrifice if I want to do it. So did a few really cool trips with you to Zion, Banff, started the podcast, joined the podcast. I mean, my voice is still messed up from that cold. So I apologize, everyone. Join the podcast, do a couple of these trips, see grizzly bears, see bighorn sheep, see like all these things out west, huge elk, moose, orcas, grizzlies. We're going to Alaska again. It was so fun. I'm kind of saving those wildlife bursts for those moments at this point. At this point, that's what I'm kind of doing. In my mind, I have a kayak and I'm like, I want to go out on the kayak once in the spring when the birds are going crazy and it's a beautiful spring summer morning. I want to do that one time because that's nice. I like paddleboarding. I like doing those things. But the days of sitting out, I think, in the woods in Connecticut are just like far and few in between because the focus.
Are you sad about that?
No. I think it's
letting go of a past that was a large part of your story, which can be very difficult to do. It can be very difficult to let go of parts of our story, even if they're not good ones. On top of that,
yeah, it's shifting a story. It's shifting of the passion, and now I would say I'm in a very good place of like having a couple of clients that seems like it's long-term work. And that's what I'm focused on. Like that's where my photography and creativity goes to right now. And that's okay. On top of that, like I have the skill. My son's getting really into sports and skiing and soccer and basketball. It's really fun to know I can make him a catalog of his growth through this. That's like awesome. It's the stuff that I wish. We just did a faculty basketball game. I talked about it last week real quickly, but everyone, I'm 6'5", people are like, can you dunk? And I'm like, no, I used to be able to. And I've maybe one VHS of a game where I dunked somewhere at my parents' house somewhere. But it's not like if it were now and I was in high school and it was practice, I would be setting up my phone all the time. Like there'd be evidence of these cool moments. And I like that for him where I'm like, I can use this skill to really give him some cool looks at his enjoyment of sports.
Right.
So
that's a pretty good motivating factor now. But I mean, beyond that, for you on a personal level.
Yeah.
Is there anything that it's pushing you and charging you forward currently?
Yeah, I think this week in and week out, this is a lot in a good way. It's a lot in a good way. We have to schedule between our both schedules and our busy lives.
What bucket does this serve for you? I'm curious.
I think it's creative and growing. It's a growth thing. I like connecting with guests. I like where the potential is. I feel like there's potential, untapped potential for things to happen with it. I do like the weekly conversations, to be honest, about this thing. Sometimes it's tough. Like we got life going on. Sometimes it's like, oh, we have to put on a smiley face and talk.
Well, you know what? You don't have to.
No, you don't have to, but we do a good job to try to get there, try to show up to the microphone.
Yeah. So, what, in your opinion, like, what skill is that building when something is important to you, but you don't necessarily want to do it in the moment, and you find a way to do it anyways? Because we have this weird dichotomy. We talk a lot about, I think this past year, 2024, we've talked a lot about saying no to things you don't want to do. Like, no, I'm not doing that. That party you invited me to that I feel obligated to go to. No. But that can get carried away. It's a fine dance and line between that concept and knowing something is important
Mm-hmm.
and finding the will to muster yourself up and get energized for something.
Yes. So I think a good thought around that is, do I want to work out today? No, not really. I'm not in the mood. But do I, long term, do I want to be healthy? Do I want to stay fit? Do I want to be strong? Yes. So now these little processes of getting there become little yeses, even though I don't want to, because I know the big yes is out there. So for this, do I want to show up every Monday morning for everyone? Yes. Do I want to be able to say we have another retreat coming up? Yes. Do I want to necessarily on a Thursday evening like set everything up and record and do all this? Not necessarily. Like if that's the one thing, but it's not. It's the end pieces that I look at and go, all right, put your shoes on, strap up, get it on, let's go. This is happening. You're going to get through it for the greater good, if you will.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And I will say, it's just like the gym, kind of. No matter what mood I'm in, or like, I don't necessarily feel like doing
By
this.
the end.
Yeah.
By the end, you feel better. Yeah.
Or once I'm even set up and like we press go and we're talking and we're flowing. Yeah. It's fine.
You can ask Haley. There's been times where I look at her, I'm like, I really'd rather not.
Yeah.
But then there's other times where I'm say the same thing where I'm like, I'm so excited for tonight.
Mhm.
And I think that's important because at least for me, I don't know about for you, that happens with some things that I'm crazy about. That happens to me running. I look outside and it's 12 inches of snow and I go, no, I don't want this. But I want to stay aerobically fit. I want to win a race. I want to, the macro you were talking about. But so I think it's important to, remind ourselves that that's a natural, it's that thing we talked about, lust and love, right? The beginning and when you're deep into something.
And sometimes you got to like excite it somehow.
How do you do that?
Me personally, with a lot of my hobbies, is new equipment. And I don't know if that's good or bad. However, it motivates me in a financially binding way and like an excitement way to keep going with it. And my most recent thing was like I spent a good amount of money on a keyboard, musical keyboard. I played piano growing up my whole life. I'm sad. And it is one of my regrets that I quit in 8th grade, 9th grade. And it's just faded since. Like it's still there, but it's faded. And I had this sense of like, I don't want that to fade to nothing, but I need something to excite me about it. And spending a good amount of money, saving up for something and spending a good amount of money on something that you are passionate about or feel like you're going to be passionate about, I feel I can, number one, guilt you into doing things a little bit and keep you going. But number two, excite you about an old thing that is now new. So I played piano. It's a piano. This baby has a bajillion different sounds and sounds you can download from famous songs. And makes it very fun to like, oh, I want to play this Pink Floyd song and it sounds exactly like it. The organ sounds exactly like what's happening in that song. That's really cool. So that's just an example, but whether it's a new lens or a new body every once in a while or a new computer, like things that get you excited about using the entire system, the entire pieces of it. Now, maybe without money, if people don't feel like, well, I'm not spending more into something that is like fading. We've talked about that. Is it really fading, or like, do you need a rest, or do you need a new angle on it, a new avenue on it to just kind of like revive it?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, golf irons. The technology has not changed in probably 20 years. It is a flat iron that has a certain weight limit that hits a round ball. When they're saying like, oh, this iron goes further than the last one, they're just changing the stamp on it. They're saying now a 9 iron's an 8 iron. Now an 8 iron is a 7 iron. And they're just changing the loft and lie of the club. So it says pitching wedge, but I hit it as far as my old 9 iron. Well, it's because it's the same as your old 9 iron.
Golf conspiracy.
Yeah, it is. And it's not even conspiracy. It's just truth. Like the angles have changed. So the point being is, I have these old clubs that I've used for a long time and I love them. But if I were to buy new clubs, I would be super excited about using those clubs and hoping that it takes my game to the next level and doing that. So I think there's ways to kind of get that excitement, and maybe that's just a me thing, but that is one way that I definitely look into passions that I want to keep going. And how do I inject it with a little bit of gasoline right now?
Right. Bring out
What do
the
you do?
wallet. I've actually started gamifying things in a way. So I've noticed when I print out a schedule and a table that where I can check mark off days, I am super excited and committed and fall asleep thinking about it. For example, my running blocks. Don't worry, people. I'm not going to get too into running. My running blocks are like let's say a 10-week program, right? Monday through Sunday. And each day of the week is slow run, AK, speed run, intervals, rest day. And every day I check off the day. And every time I do a check mark, I get this little buzz of dopamine, positive energy, whatever you want to call it. And I find that, and so I keep those charts on my desk visible all the time. It's like always looking at it. It's never out of sight, out of mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've noticed with tons of running blocks that I've printed off, when I have printed it off and I've gamified it and checkmarked things, I am so committed and disciplined to sticking to it, almost to a fault at times. So I had this thought the other day. This is very recent. What if I printed off a training block or a workout plan for multiple things that I'm trying to do? So right now I'm trying to invest more money into I think you guys call it a Roth IRA in America. Here it's a TFSA in Canada.
Mm-hmm.
Go Canada. I want to up my contributions, which would require budgeting, cutting expenses, gaining more financial literacy, etc. So I printed out a 10-week training block on it where it's like one day is review your expenses. Another is sell an item you no longer use. Wednesday, rest day. Thursday, pay off more on your credit card, etc. And I did a 10-week training block for that, and it's sitting right beside my running training block. Because I know that it being out in the open and being in my line of sight and gamifying it works for me. Like it motivates me. Because I can't walk past it and go, oh, you haven't ticked off the box today. That's my personality because I'm very competitive with myself. Again, maybe to a fault. But it's funny you asked that because this is a new strategy I'm trying out for all hard things that I'm trying to do.
I like it. I like that it's put out in front of you and it's something to look at and you have to think about the plan.
It has to be in front of you.
Yeah.
Like, how do you take out trash that you can't see? Right? How can you you don't
How do
put
you
away laundry you
really-
don't see, right? It's
How do you really get out of your own way without like planning it out? You gotta kind of break the habits.
Yeah, I mean, it's on a
that day.
dresser right now. So to get my socks and underwear on in the morning, I have to look at that sheet.
Yeah.
I have to.
Yep.
So I don't know if I'm just weird, but if
No.
you're someone who feels like you're similar to me, maybe try it out.
Yeah, I think it's great if you feel stuck in any way to like write it out. Write what you want to do. Come up with a plan, a process.
Yeah. Because I'm very much someone who responds to structure like that.
Yeah.
And rigidity. It's a hard word to say. And it's working so far. And I think the other thing that's really helped me stay, we're talking about motivation, right?
Mhm.
Forgot what topic we were on, but just to kind of stay chronically motivated on a day to day is, I think I've talked about this in a previous episode. I was writing down way too many things on my weekly to-do list. I've changed from a weekly to-do list to a daily to-do list. I was writing so many things down in my weekly to-do list, and often they were just ridiculous things that should be maintenance tasks that shouldn't even be,
Yeah.
like reply to emails.
I had this college roommate. Maybe it wasn't a roommate. He was a neighbor in the dorms. And we'd go in there. This is a shout out to Bick. We called him Bick. His last name is Bacardi. Shout out to Bick. We'd go into his room and there'd be Post-its everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. All over the place. All over the wall. And we're looking at them and one literally said shower. And
Yeah, like that's not a task, right? So
like, you need a reminder for that. Like that can't just be.
I don't think. Here's my thing, and here's what I'm getting at. I don't think it's a reminder. I think it's a cop out as a way to feel like you're being productive when you're just being busy. If I write down shower and I check mark it off, I get this false sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah.
Reply to emails.
Drink
do
water.
laundry. So you get like 20 check marks by the end of the week and you're like, hell, I've done nothing
right
towards what is essential. And it gets back to this thing we've talked about so I've switched to trying to be more of an essentialist, which people remember I'm structuring my days now in the morning or the night before as 1, 2, 3. One task that is essential that takes me that I'll work on for 2 to 3 hours. So today it was a Tamron blog post. 2 to 3 hours, and then I stop because it often requires a lot of mental effort. 2 tasks that are both urgent and important. They have to meet both of those criteria. It has to be urgent, time sensitive, and important. Now, whatever important is to you, that's, subjective. And 3 maintenance tasks. So today was, I have a hurt knee, is to do physiotherapy on your knee. The idea of the maintenance tasks is you do them now. Otherwise, if you let them slide repeatedly, it'll make your scenario worse in the future. So you don't reply to emails, you have like a bajillion pile up.
Right.
So physiotherapy on the knee was a maintenance thing today. Lift weights, walk the dog for a mile. So you have 1 essential task, 2 urgent and important tasks, 3 maintenance tasks, and I check mark all those off and I consider that a productive day if that's all I do. Now I've gone from being busy to being efficient and focusing on things that are essential in my life. It's amazing, and this is not my idea. This is a guy by the name of Greg McKeown who wrote a book called Essentialism, which I'm obviously very into. Because it's a way to buy back your time. And it's a way to prioritize your life as opposed to having other external factors do it for you. And to avoid the I guess, fallacy of I got a lot done because I'm busy. I have tons of things on my to-do list. No, you're not busy. You're just doing stuff. You're organizing your sock drawer. right?
Right.
So it's been very helpful because I was also finding that when I was not crossing off everything on my weekly to-do list, I'd feel like shit. Like, man, like you couldn't even get everything done on it. That's because you can't do everything, man.
Yeah.
You can't attend to everything. And it was a source of unknown anxiety and frustration. And since I've chopped that, since I've replaced all those busy tasks with essential tasks on a daily time frame, I feel so much more accomplished day in and day out. I can't recommend it enough. So that's helping me stay motivated too on the daily. Like I'm making progress because I'm ticking off 1, 2, 3 every day.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I like it. I like the structure of it.
That's how I got our Alaska video done. The one we're talking about in past episodes. It sat and it sat and it sat and it sat. And I put it as my essential project for 2 weeks straight and it got done. I'm willing to bet had I not adopted this strategy, it would still be sitting on my hard drive, all that footage.
Yeah.
And now, is working on that project sacrificing other things I could be doing? Yes. But it's also forcing me to work linearly. Now, when I'm done the Alaska thing, I'll move on to the other thing. And naturally, I'll pick the thing that is most pressing and most important to me at the time.
Yeah. All right. Well,
we got a Canada-USA game to watch.
We sure do.
Well, this will air on Monday, and we'll see.
Let's see what happens.
You going to keep the jersey on for the game?
Hell no.
Oh, you know what? That's fair. That's fair. We'll see if there's booing of the anthems. That's been crazy.
Yeah, we'll see.
We'll see, because it's in TD Garden in Boston.
Exciting.
I think the Canadian anthem will be drowned out personally.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, thanks for writing in, Angela, and asking the question. Hopefully we at least hit a little bit of it. I think we did. I think we got some gems in there.
Yeah. And go see, subscribe on YouTube if you haven't already. See Aaron in his Canada Gitch with his toque. And as always, if you find these episodes are helpful, useful, have nuggets of knowledge, feel free to leave a rating and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Free, cost-effective way to support the show and us. We'll always do these for free. But till next time, man.
Take care.